The world we live in seems normal and familiar. It seems that people live as they always have. But that's not true. We humans have never lived in such a complex and tailored world as we do today. We have forgotten about ourselves, and are not worried about survival, food, shelter, safety. All this is taken for granted. But we are special. For more than 99.999% of human history, life was completely different. And there is no single human history. Our story begins 6 million years ago, when hominins split from apes and ceased to be related to them. 2.8 million years ago, the genus Homo, the first humans, appeared. We like to think that we are the only people, but we are not. When we, Homo sapiens sapiens, appeared on the planet 200,000 years ago, at least 6 other species of people already existed on it, with relatives of similar intelligence and abilities. It might seem scary how we would coexist with the aliens. Some of them turned out to be quite successful. For example, Homo erectus existed for 2 million years. This is 10 times longer than the duration of existence of the modern human species. Other people disappeared about 10,000 years ago. The reason for their extinction is unknown. Modern humans share a few percent of the DNA of Neanderthals and other humans. This means that crossbreeding has occurred. Either we lost the fight without resources, or a series of small genocides occurred. One way or another, we were the only ones left. Let's go back to the roots of humanity. 2.8 million years ago, the first people began to use tools. But for almost 2 million years after that there was little progress, until they learned to control fire. Fire allowed food to be cooked, made more nutritious, and influenced the development of the brain. Fire also made the days longer and the winters warmer. In addition, fire could be used for hunting, as well as to scare away predators. Already fried small game, nuts and strawberries could be obtained from set fire forests and fields. 300,000 years ago, most human species lived in small hunting communities. They had fire, wooden and stone tools. They planned the future, buried after death, and had their own customs. But the most important thing is that they talked to each other in a primitive language, which was probably less complex than ours. What if we had a time machine? What if we had a time machine? There are many arguments here. Anatomically, modern humans appeared 200,000 years ago. However, we are only 70,000 years away from being able to steal the behavior of modern humans. Earlier children would not have the genetic mutations needed to acquire a brain with modern language and abstract thinking skills. Earlier children would not have had the genetic mutations needed to develop brains with modern language and abstract thinking skills. Somewhere around 50,000 years ago there was a quantum leap in technological innovation. Tools and weapons have become more advanced. Cultures have become more complex, because at this point people had a multi-purpose brain. Because at this point people had multi-purpose brains, and could use more complex language to communicate information to each other more efficiently. Because at this point people had multi-purpose brains, and could use more complex language to communicate information to each other more effectively. Because at the moment people have diversified brains, and a more complex language for more effective transmission of information. Because at the moment people have diversified brains, and a more complex language for more effective transmission of information. This allows us to work together, and this is what sets us apart from every other living thing on the planet. It has nothing to do with our relatively weak bodies or defective sense organs, but with our ability to cooperate flexibly. This is our ability to work flexibly in large groups, not like bees. We can also act individually, like a small pack of wolves. As the brain improved, it became able to do things that living organisms could not do before. First, spread knowledge faster. The second is to preserve the knowledge acquired over many generations. Third, rely on the knowledge of ancestors to achieve goals. This may seem absurd, but in the past information was passed on from generation to generation, mainly through genes, which was ineffective. But over the next 40,000 years, human life remained virtually unchanged. There was little evidence of this. Our ancestors were just one animal among many others. It is difficult to build a skyscraper without knowing what it is. But we shouldn't be arrogant about our ancestors. 50,000 years ago, people were survivalists. In their heads were detailed maps of their territory. Their senses were attuned to their surroundings. They knew and remembered a huge amount of flora and fauna information. They were able to make complex instruments, that required many years of training and skill. Thanks to the daily routine of work, their bodies could be compared to the bodies of athletes. They had a rich social life within the tribe. Because survival required so many skills, the average brain of early humans may have been larger than it is today. They may have been larger than modern humans. Today we know more, but individually our ancestors were superior to us. However, about 12,000 years ago, people began to engage in farming in many places. The situation quickly changed. Before this, survival as hunter-gatherers required everyone to have enormous physical and mental abilities. With the development of agriculture, people were able to rely on the skills of other people to survive. This meant that some people could specialize. They could have worked on creating better tools, or spent more time breeding more resilient livestock crops. They could begin to invent. Let's call it the beginning of civilization, as agriculture became more and more efficient. Thanks to agriculture, we now have a reliable and predictable source of food. As a result, for the first time we can store food in large quantities. Grain is much lighter than meat. Storing food required the creation of protective structures, which led to closer living. First, an initial defensive structure was built, which required organization. The more organized they became, the more effective they became. Villages turned into cities, cities into kingdoms, and kingdoms into empires. Human communication developed in geometric progression. Knowledge could be shared. Progress has become exponential. About 500 years ago, the scientific revolution began. Mathematics, physics, astronomy, biology and chemistry have changed everything we know. Soon after, the Industrial Revolution occurred and the foundations of the modern world were laid. The effectiveness of the growth of geometric progression. More people were able to devote more time to human progress. The revolutions continued. The invention of the computer has become something we use every day. The advent of the internet has changed our world. It's hard to comprehend how quickly it all happened. About 125,000 generations have passed since the appearance of the first people. About 7,500 generations have passed since modern humans first saw the light of day. 500 generations ago, what we call civilization began. 20 generations ago we learned to do science. It was only a generation ago that the internet became available to most people. Today we live in the most prosperous era that humanity has ever experienced. We have changed the planet, from atmosphere to landscape, even the key to the existence of other animals. We light up the night with artificial stars, and put people in iron boxes in the sky. Some of them walked on the moon. We sent robots to other planets. We looked with our mechanical eyes far into the cosmic past. Our knowledge and methods of obtaining and preserving it have expanded. The average schoolchild now knows more about the universe than scientists did centuries ago. Humanity rules this planet, but its dominance is fragile. We are not that different from our ancestors 70,000 years ago. Your new way of life lasted less than 0.001% of human history. From now on, we have no idea what the future holds for us. We build high-rise buildings, which, unknown to us, stand on solid ground. Or are we building on shifting sands? So to speak, the next time you miss the train, either your hamburger isn't hot, or the line in front of you cuts out. I want you to remember how important this artificial world is. You may not have to worry about such little things. Thank you for watching. Your feedback is very important to us. Watch more videos on our channel.